How's it going, YouTube? Got FourthStarTCG here, and today I'd like to do a little bit of a discussion video. I want to give you guys a small update on my collection goals, and I also want to discuss a little bit about adapting and changing your collection goals when things change in the hobby and the market. So this is something that I've had to do recently just because of, recent price increases, and I think people often kind of look at their collection goals as rigid and unchanging, and when you have that sort of rigid and unchanging mindset, you leave yourself out of a lot of really amazing possibilities. So today I want to go over what I was doing in the past with my collection, what I've now changed about my collection goals, and just some general advice that I think would be nice for anyone collecting in this time. So, I'm sure you guys know from watching my videos over the past couple of weeks, I completed my PSA 10 Japanese EX set last summer. And after that, I started going for the English set. Normally I would not grade a lot of English cards, and recently I've just started grading a lot of English cards. You can check out my most recent PSA submission to see all the English EXs I graded. And I got some really good returns. For example, show off some of them here. I got two PSA 10 Rockets EX cards. I got Rocket Scizor and Rocket Snorlax. These are incredibly expensive cards. I think the Snorlax just sold for $800 or something. And I got these in a PSA 10. So my original collection goal was to go after all of the English EX cards in PSA 10. Right, so that's what I was going after. I was looking for mint cards. I was buying 10 candidates. That was my goal. I didn't want to buy anything that I didn't think didn't have a chance at a 10. And I was also buying 10s as well. So, for example, I'll show you some of the purchases I made back towards the end of last summer. I actually don't think I've shown these off on the channel. I've shown them off on my Instagram and on my collection thread on the forum, but I don't think I've shown them off here, and they're fairly big cards. So I purchased this PSA 10 Charizard EX, sort of following my collection goals of to get the biggest cards out of the way first. So I got Charizard EX, really happy with that purchase. I purchased it at the perfect time, price-wise. I also purchased Lugia EX in PSA 10. And up until about maybe a month or so ago, I was going for 10s. I picked up this beautiful Latios EX PSA 10 from Dragon Frontiers. And what else did I pick up? I got the Gengar from Fire Red Leaf Green in a 10. I got the Blastoise from Fire Red Leaf Green in a 10, which completed my Fire Red Leaf Green starter set. So I have all of those in a 10 now. So that's what I was doing. But just in the recent month or so, these prices for these PSA 10 EX cards have really skyrocketed. Back when I started this goal, the most expensive card was Charizard, and I paid $530 some odd for Charizard in a PSA 10. And just recently it's gone up to over $1,700. So that was a good buy for me at that point, but the prices have just gotten so out of reach for me that I would be buying some of these 10s, some of the price of 1 or 2 10s are really just out of reach. It's not really what I want to do. It's possible that I could, save up and buy, $1,000 10 every 5 months or 6 months or something. But that's really not what I want to do. I want to have these cards coming in. I want to proceed with my collection goals as quickly as possible. And the prices for these cards have just made it so that 10s are not really feasible for me. So what I've started to do is to collect 9s and even some lower grades. And I think a lot of people are very inflexible in what they collect, and I was like that for a while as well. didn't want anything less than a 10, especially back when I was, first starting out in collecting. Well, maybe not when I first started out, but maybe a couple of years in, it was, 10s only. Anything less than a 10 I would sell or put aside and not really engage with. But there's really, especially now, people are realizing that PSA 9, so for example, here are some 9s from my most recent submission. They're such high quality cards, and they usually have one or two minor flaws. So for example, here's this Suicune. The reason I think this is a 9, I think it's a little off center. You can see the right border is bigger than the left, and on the back there's maybe a little ding in that corner there, and that's about it. So this is a beautiful, beautiful example of a card, and it graded a 9, which is an extremely high grade. And I think in Pokemon we've sort of been spoiled for a while with 10s being expensive and 9s being cheap. But the reality, the difference between a 9 and a 10 is incredibly tiny, and people need to sort of. What I've learned is that when you get a PSA 9, the price you pay for a 9 often greatly outweighs the significant differences, or the difference between a 9 and a 10. Now, did that mean that I think that 10s are, worthless or somehow fake? Obviously not. Like, for example, this, like, I saw some flaws on this Suicune. Let me grab my Lugia, because that is a flawless card. This card is so beautiful. I purchased it off of someone who pulled it directly out of a pack. So this card is perfectly centered. There are 0 hollow scratches. There is nothing on the back of this card. It is mint as mint can be, and it is incredibly deserving of that Gem Mint 10. But then when I think about, okay, in the 10, we haven't had sales of this card in a very long time. I would probably say that you'd be looking at $700 to $1,000 for a 10. A 9, you're probably paying $250, or maybe closer to $275, $300, given the current market. Is a slight ding on the back, or a small hollow scratch, or a little bit of off center, is that really worth $700? And that's something that you want to ask yourself. If that's something that's within your means and you want that perfect 10 set, then by all means go for it. But if it's not, so these are some cards that I've been buying lately. So I recently just purchased this Espeon EX Mint 9. Again, it's a little bit off center, and there is a very tiny ding on the back right in the middle there, and that's it. That's all this card has. It's so beautiful. It's so nice. The 10 of this card recently sold for $1,400, and I paid significantly less for this 9. I saved a very large amount of money by buying the 9 instead of buying the 10. So I think that when you can, for me at least, and this is a decision each individual collector is going to have to make. I'm not, I don't want to dictate your collection goals to you, but what I'm saying is just that for me, I found that once the 10s got out of reach, and this isn't to say that I'm not buying 10s, I'm actually still buying a lot of 10s, but it's on cards where the 10s are financially possible. So I paid $300 for this 9. Is that 10 really worth $1,100 more to me? And the answer was it wasn't. But some where the 9 is maybe $30, or $30 to $40, and the 10's maybe $100. I think when you're talking about like 2.5 times more expensive for a 10, that's worth it. So I even actually picked up this 8 Umbreon. Again, no recent sales, but I'd probably peg the 10 somewhere around $1,000. I think that would be what a 10 would likely sell for. And this 8, it's got some minor hollow scratching. The back is actually really nice. So I think, again, for me, it works a lot more if I look at the individual card instead of the grade. And, you know, this has been a refrain on the forum for the longest time: buy the card, not the grade. But especially now with the market going crazy, you can find very high quality examples in lower grades. You can find really strong 8s. You can find beautiful 9s. Just like, you know, this Suicune X, again, like, the only thing we talked about is it's off center a little bit and there's a small ding on the back. You know, I don't even know what this card's worth in a 10, but this is such a beautiful example. And it's protected, it's graded for the longest time. So again, what I'm trying to say here is that when things change, and I know a lot of us are kind of, you know, pulling our hair out with the recent market changes, and, you know, are we going to be able to complete our collection goals? Don't be afraid to change if that works for you. Don't feel like you're locked in to what your collection goals used to be. And it always, you know, if you do want to stick in your collection goals, it might just be worth it to, you know, slow down a little bit. But do what works for you. This is just what works for me. And I wanted to show that off. So to close it off, I just want to show off some of my Unseen Forces EXs. I think these are just beautiful cards. So we'll close out with that. That'll be the thumbnail. Maybe we'll do the 10, 9, 8 train there. That's pretty nice. Alright, so thank you guys very much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Really interested on what you guys have to say about this, the whole 10 versus 9 versus lower grades debate, and with the recent market changes as well. So again, thank you very much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and stick around for more videos.